Hey there, I'm author Sarah A. Chrisman.
And I'm Gabriel Chrisman.
And today we're going to be talking about my book, First Wheel in Town, Book 1 of the Tales of Chetzemoka. So now that I finally finished the Tales of Chetzemoka and all 9 books are out, I thought it would be a good time to go back and just say a few words about each one. So of course we're starting at the beginning, to make sense. And I hope a lot of you have read this. Personally, I hope all of you have, but in case you hadn't, this is a story that takes place in 1881, and it's a love story. It's about what happens when the doctor of a small town brings the first bicycle to town that anyone has ever seen. And this all started, it was kind of your idea.
It kind of was, yes.
Yeah. Why don't you talk a little bit about that?
Well, I realized that, I really loved a lot of the early bicycle culture, the high wheel days, and then the bicycle boom in the 1890s, and I realized there hadn't really been much fiction written about that.
Not since then.
Right. There was some fiction at the time. H.G. Wells wrote Wheels of Chance.
Well, that was 1890s.
Mm-hmm.
In the 1880s, all of the athletic magazines actually had a lot of short stories.
Yes.
About bicycles.
But there were almost no novels.
Very few.
Yeah.
Very few.
But I figured that there was a place for this, and that people needed to know about this history, and as a sort of setting for historical fiction, this is something that no one had done before, and I thought that Sarah was the perfect person to write these.
And so he kind of helped get me hooked on this, prompted me, and some of my favorite books as a child were the Anne of Green Gables series, Ella Montgomery's books, and so I've always really been enchanted by the romance of the Victorian-era and the beauty of the Victorian-era, and we've always loved what a dynamic time it was. Both of us have. And it's a really fascinating time in technology, too. And something else that I loved about Maud Montgomery's books is that they are often enjoyed by children, but they're really written for adults. And so that's what I always tried with my books, that there's nothing a parent would object to their kids reading, but they're really written for adults.
Yeah, but they work for a broad spectrum of ages.
Right. I've had people tell me that they buy them for their grandchildren. I've had them tell me they buy them for their grandparents. So it goes both ways. And the town in these books is based on a town where we used to live. It's a much idealized version of the town. But it does involve a lot of the history of that town and the history of the Pacific Northwest. And that was another thing, that there's a whole genre of Western books and movies, but it's all Western books and movies. They're always set in the desert area of the West. You've got Wyoming, the Southwest,
Wyoming
Arizona.
Isn't quite the desert, but it's still pretty arid.
It's pretty arid, pretty scrubby.
Yeah, it's definitely like the Mountain West.
The Mountain West.
Right.
Yeah, you've got the Mountain West and the Desert West.
Right.
There really is very little about the coastal West. Now, there are some California books, but California is its own thing.
Very much so.
It's very different from the Pacific Northwest. And so I always felt that, as someone who grew up in the Pacific Northwest, I always felt that it got left out. It got left out of literature, it got left out of history. Seriously, even that song by the Beach Boys where they're singing about how they wish all girls could be California girls, they call out every different part of the U.S. except the Pacific Northwest.
Yes,
they say, what's so wonderful about, East Coast girls, Southern girls, Midwest girls? They totally leave out the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
And books do too. And so I thought someone should write some historical fiction about the Pacific Northwest, and so I kind of made that my little mission for this series. And in the course of it, I wound up creating this whole world of a group of friends and all their adventures together and their romances, and
And this one, because it's the first one, it really introduces a basic set of characters. But as the series go on, you get more and more additions to these characters, and they all have different interactions, and the world gets more and more complex. But this is a great introduction to this world.
Right. I always envisioned this series as basically a rose unfolding. So you get the very start and the very introduction of the first few characters, and then as the series progresses, it gets more and more complicated. So, hope you'll check it out if you haven't already. And for those of you who have read it, I really appreciate your support. So, this is a big shout out of thanks to all of you. So, happy reading!